Hello everyone, welcome to another installment of Case the Catalog. This is the card we're going to be making, and I believe it's on page 22 of the new annual catalog. It shows you the outside, and then it also has this cute little inside with a die cut. This card features the stamp sets Daisy Lane and Special Celebration. Special Celebrations comes in 2 of the clear mount cases because it's quite a large, it has large sentiments in it. So those are the 2 sets that we're going to be using today. This card has a fun background technique, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is stamp some of the things that we can get out of the way first, and then I'll show you how to create the background. Today I'm going to be using Whisper White cardstock. This is just the plain Whisper White cardstock, die cut with the label image from the To a Wild Rose coordinating dies. I'm also using vellum, watercolor paper, and gray granite cardstock. All of the dimensions are below in the information regarding this video and also on my blog post so that you can cut out your pieces and play along with this video. I'm going to start by stamping the sentiments onto my two labels. One is vertical and one is horizontal. And I'm going to start with the happy birthday sentiment for the inside in early espresso. And I'm just going to ink up my stamp. Ooh, that's a juicy one. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment more towards the left because, as you may have noticed, on the inside of this card we cut that off a little bit. I'm also going to stamp the sentiment, hope your day brings just what it should, happiness, health, and everything good, on the vertical piece, like so. And then I'm done with those 2 stamps. They're all done, and I'm also done with the early espresso ink. Next, I'm going to stamp the fern image from the Daisy Lane stamp set in Granny Apple Green, right over top the sentiments I just stamped. You could do it either way, but I like to make sure that my sentiment comes out right before I stamp over top of it or add anything else to the image, because if my sentiment's not right, then I'm already done. Voila! And we're going to keep that and the ink because we're going to use that to make the background. So I'm going to set these 2 off to the side to dry. Not that they need much time, but I'm going to set them off to the side anyway while we make our background. So in the catalog, the background looks like it's spritzed with a spritzer or watercolored, and the vellum goes over top and kind of mutes that a little bit. So this is how I thought it was done. You'll read in my blog post that it's not how I thought it was done. I thought that the way that I'm doing it is how I thought it was done. It was not done this way, but this is a great way to do it. So I just ink up my fern image and I stamp the fern all over. This is a great use of our grid paper. And we already know that we're going to put something in the middle, so we don't necessarily have to put a lot of effort into filling up the fern in the middle there, even though you can. So now we're all done with the greeny apple green because we've done this, and that can go away. What we're going to do, because it's on the watercolor paper, I'm going to put it inside of one of our clear mount stamp cases, mostly to protect my surface and get any of the water that I'm going to spritz with the spritzer, keep it from getting on my surface so I can keep using this one. Sometimes when I craft I forget that, and then I get soggy cards and it's not much fun. So I'm going to spritz generously. You want the ink to run. And there you see it's running away from the ferns and creating this really pretty look. Yay! So you have two options at this point. You can set it off to the side and let it dry, or you can use your heat tool. I've made an extra one to move on with the card, which I did use my heat tool to dry, but sometimes you have to be careful when you do that the color doesn't run too much. So I'm just going to set this off to the side to dry. And here we have one that's already done and ready to go. Now, I just need to clean my stamp. Now, I'm using Mossy Meadow for the green overlay. And normally, you can go from lighter to darker colors without too much contamination. But cleaning your stamps between each color is often a good idea. So we're going to take the Mossy Meadow. We're going to ink that up. And it's not super important to get it exactly over the other image, but you want to try and get it close. With the new stamps and the new labels, I have found that I never could have done this with a wood stamp or with a clear mount stamp that wasn't labeled. It gives me a lot better control over where I'm putting my stamped image. And yes, I am inking up in between each one because this is watercolor paper, so it does soak up a little more ink than traditional paper. Voila! And we're done with that. So we've done all of our stamping that we need to do to create this cute little card. And this is our beautiful background. I'm going to use more adhesive than I would normally use to attach this watercolor piece to my card base, because we know that when watercolor paper dries, it still kind of curls up on the sides. So I'm going to put adhesive all the way around and an X in the middle like I would normally do. Hopefully this will keep my piece down. Now, to put the vellum on, I'm just going to run a couple of pieces of adhesive right there in the middle, because it's going to be covered up by our sentiment die cut. So it won't matter if any of the adhesive shows through. Now what we need to do is we're going to put the denim ribbon and the linen thread behind our sentiment piece and put it all on together. I'll show you how I get everything to look this way. So first I take this sentiment piece and I'm going to turn it over And I'm going to put adhesive over the whole thing. You could also use glue if you prefer. I like the tape. And then I'm going to take my Denim Ribbon and I'm going to start this way and turn it back. And go across, and this will make the Z that we're looking for. And that makes our Z. This one's a little bit wider than the one on my sample, but it doesn't matter. Cards are intended to be slightly different. Then we're going to take our linen thread and find the end. And I'm going to wrap it around my fingers 3 times. And I made my fingers go as wide as they could so that it would be wide enough. And then I'm just going to trim that. What I like to do is then take the 2 ends and adhere those first. So I'm going to take a look at it and decide which way I want them to go. And I'm going to adhere there. Flip it over. And because we stuck all that adhesive down, there's plenty of places for each piece of that linen thread to go. And there we have it. It's slightly different, but that's okay. Now what I want to do is put dimensionals all over. And while you get 300 dimensionals in a pack, I love to use my dimensionals so much that I often will use the sides of my dimensional pieces as well, because they work just as good as the regular dimensionals. And it'll help your items go further if you're on a budget. Or you can cut them up to put them in little spaces. I like these strips sometimes for frames or sentiments. So a lot of times I'll cut these parts out and save these for later. And then we're just going to peel off our little backings. And we'll attach this. Right on here. And it's okay if soft things like ribbons or twines hang off the edge of your card. They'll still go nicely in an envelope. And then I'm going to pick out one of the leaf trinkets here. I like the copper look ones, but the silver look ones look beautiful too. And I'm going to use 2 glue dots to attach these. And I'm just gonna, I just push my glue dots on there, and you can kind of see them a little bit. So sometimes I'll tuck them in so that they're behind what I'm attaching. And then just gonna pop that right on there. And there we have the front of the card done. Now, simple putting in this piece that says happy birthday. Again, we're going to tape her up nicely. Probably a little bit more tape than I would normally use, but it doesn't matter. And then we're going to hang this over the edge. Put the sentiment down. Turn the card over. If you don't trust yourself, you can use your trimmer. I find cutting pieces like this with the scissors a little bit easier. And cut that right off. And voila, there you have our really cute little case from the catalog. Now, this is a direct case from the catalog. I didn't change anything. I didn't use different products except for I used a different technique to do the background. But otherwise, I still think that the result was very similar. And now I have two really great masculine birthday cards to use. So I'm excited to give these out. Usually the masculine cards that I make are very clean and simple, no fancy techniques or anything like that. Usually bright colors, but I think this is really fun and beautiful. Thank you so much for watching.